Today we're going to talk about installing the Beebrain board, as you can see here. I have already disassembled the previous board, which is held on by 4 screws, 4 grommets, and then I also have a 3D printed video cam holder. So here I'm just kind of test fitting everything, and we'll get the board in, and the rubber grommets just kind of press into the little holders. You want to make sure that the front of the quad, there's a little arrow underneath, so you want to make sure that the front of the quad is pointed forward and with the board pointing forward. These little screws are pretty tough to get in there, and it took me some time to place them in, so make sure you have a micro-sized screw set for placement of those screws. I have already soldered the camera onto the board, and that's pretty simple. It comes with a little connector already installed, and what you're going to do is you're going to put the board over, and you will solder the red positive side to the red positive side and the ground to the ground on the opposite side. Pretty self-explanatory, and you should just be able to power it up. So you can see he's still trying to get this thing together. It just is kind of a pain. So I've stopped the camera, got things going, and I am going to put this last little piece on there. And it's nice to save your extra screw sets because you don't know if you might lose them or not. And just so you guys know, with the cleanflight setup, you might have to move your clockwise or counterclockwise motors, so just make sure that when you are setting it up and you plug it in, you are moving your motors to the appropriate areas. And that was my mistake. I did that on this first one when I ended up booting it up. So just want to make sure that if you need to rotate them around, just go ahead and do that, since you all have already had it taken apart. And then it's easier to feed the wires in before you put the board in for the motors, so you would want to do that. And what I've done here is I'll just kind of push them in there, and then I usually add a little bit of hot glue just to kind of hold them in so they're not hanging down, unless you remember to hold on to those little rubber bands. So right now I'm binding the transmitter, a DSMX, and my best advice for this is turn your transmitter into bind first and then power up the tiny loop. So this just takes a couple minutes. Alright, it's bound now. Transmitter is off, so when it doesn't detect a signal, you have that blinking orange yellow light. Right now I'm plugging it into cleanflight to look at the PIDs and set an arm switch and air mode. I have a 2 switch, one for air mode and one for horizon mode. So those are 2 things that you probably should set up with this. And then the next section will be how to tune on cleanflight. This is going to be an overview of what I've used to set up my Beebrain on my Inductrix. So of course you're going to need to install Google Chrome. If you have not installed it, then it won't work because you need to run either cleanflight or Betaflight. So we're going to go over here to the apps section, and as you can see, I've already installed it. If you need help, you're going to click the web store, type in cleanflight, and then add it to the Google Chrome. Alright, so let's go ahead and go into cleanflight. Move this over. Alright, so we're going to want to go ahead and connect this and see if I can get this to work. And connect. Alright, so all I had to do, like I said, was follow this. Sam's blog, cleanflight on Mac. I have an iMac, the latest version. So it worked. You're going to download this driver and uninstall it, and it should allow access. So, okay, so I have my controllers currently on. I just turned it on. My recommendation is definitely get to the upgraded motors. I'm currently running just the race motors, which is about 14,000 kVs, and it will do flips, but you'll drop about 5 feet in altitude to do it, and your rates really don't make that big of a difference. So to get the mode set up, as you can see, I do have horizon mode, and then I also have air mode, and with my arm. So when I have okay, so now that we're connected after we installed all those drivers and everything, you can see it's following my tiny whoop wherever it goes, and it's got some battery information on here, which doesn't really make sense. I don't think it's drawing 36 amps, but alright, so let's go ahead and go into, you can see we have the configuration. I did have to change my motors once I upgraded to the Beebrain. So you'll have to just do exactly like this. It was pretty easy, just moving your counter turn and counterclockwise motors to represent this setup. For my receiver, I got that all set up. I'm running a DX6i, so a DSMX protocol, and I got that all set up here, and you can see my arm switch. And then what I had a problem with is, why it's not on here? Oh, my minimum throttle, maximum throttle, and mid command. So that's just the setup with the air mode, so they would turn on when I armed it, just like the bigger quads, the mini quads. So this is what I had to do: minimum throttle 110, maximum 2000, and the minimum command of 1000, which allows to keep the gyro still operational when you throttle all the way down. So as long as that's, you know, around where you're at, you should be okay. For pits, notice a little bit of difference, but the thing is the slower spinning motors, it just takes a little bit more time, because I'm at the 7,000 feet up here where I live, so there's not a lot of air for the motors to bite onto, so things just move a lot slower. So you're gonna have to really adjust your pits to get some stabilization. Just depends on where you're at. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen the tiny whoop fall when you decelerate a little too fast. You get that wobble, so you can, you know, help tune it out with the D settings. And I did have to go up on my rates a little bit. And I'll show you my mode setups. My arm in air mode, of course, when I arm, I want it to be in air mode, and then I also am flying with horizon mode, which is set up on 2 different switches. So when I go here, we're going to be in like rate/air mode. So I'll have complete control and it'll stick to that position. And then if I want, I have another switch, which is horizon mode, which keeps it, the angle's pretty steep. It's way steeper than the other Tiny Whoop, the stock's Tiny Whoop board. So you definitely pick up speed just in that. So if I want to put horizon mode, I have another switch, and the horizon overpowers the air mode. So I turn that on, it'll go right into horizon mode, and it's like an auto level. So these are the settings that I have for my Tiny Whoop. Like I said, I am going to get a bigger, faster motors, just because when I do want to do the flips and the rolls and all that stuff, it'll kind of catch. So this is the trade-off. If you have a faster KV motor, you're going to be able to do more acrobats, but your life of those motors are going to be a lot less. So if you go up to the, I think there's like 19,000 kV motors, they only last 4 hours, and then they kind of go down from there. So it's almost better to build two and have one for cruising and putzing around, and then you have one where you can, for the insane motors, which will last about 4 hours, which on a non-windy day you want to go out and do some split S's, do some flips and barrel rolls and stuff. I would recommend those. So that's my setup. Beebrain is super easy to set up. If you guys have any questions, you can leave it in the comments below. Otherwise, I will be posting another video soon. Alright, take care.